Hello, everyone. So, we were discussing in our last lecture about renewable resources, exhaustible resources, inexhaustible resources, and geological resources, etc. And we discussed resource, what are natural resource, what are the types of resources, and what are the types of natural resources, how an American baby need all of these resources in his or her lifetime. And these are the highest consumption of resources utilization. Um, in developed countries, people use more natural resources because they can afford many things. Similarly, how much we utilize things, we utilize resources, that's how much we produce waste. On the other hand, in least developed countries, people use less resources. But how it got balanced, it balanced somehow like here comes the concept of population. Because in the developing or least developed countries, population is higher than developed countries. So because there are more people, so they use more resources. So plus minus in east or west or in developed or not so developed countries, all over people are using natural resources continuously and exponentially. Then we discuss geological resources and types of geological resources. Then we discuss the classification of natural resources. So we classified the natural resources on the basis of its origin, how they were produced. Like if they produce from a living organism, they will be called biotic resources. And if they are produced from non-organic or non-living material, they will be called abiotic, like coal, petroleum. You know that million of years ago, plants and animals died and buried in sedimentary rocks and turned into fuel. So we call that biotic resource. On the other hand, if you find some metals or non-metallic compound minerals in rocks, they are totally produced by nature without the involvement of any living creature. Yeah, we have to discuss the stage of development. We will be classifying the natural resources considering their stage of development. And there are four types of resources we have on Earth: potential resource, actual resource, reserve resources, and stock resources. So, um, what does it mean by potential resource? Any resource which is present here, we don't know yet where it is present, but we know that it is present somewhere on the earth in any sedimentary rock. For example, petroleum, crude oil. You know that there is definitely some petroleum left in anywhere in the world which has not been discovered yet. Okay, it's not been discovered yet, but it might be in future we are able to discover that. We will find out where these resources are being held. So we will call it potential resource because we have the potential. Right now, we don't have access to those resources, but anyway, any sooner or later, we will have the intel on these resources, and we will find out those resources. So we will be calling this potential resources. Then comes the actual resources. So actual resources are the part of potential resources. These are the resources which have been surveyed and quantified and qualified. Like you have been gone there, you have surveyed those sites where natural that particular resource is present. You have measured, you have quantified the data, you have drawn data how much the fuel or any mineral or any resources there, and you have also have the data of the quality of those resources, like is it profitable, is it good quality. For example, if you are extracting some coal, so you have identified that the coal is worthy and coal is good quality, it's not cheaper, so you if you extract it out, it will be beneficial and it will be profitable rather than loss. So these are the resources which you have on hand, and you are currently able to use those resources. Then comes reserve resources. These are the resources which are present, you know that where they are, and also they are profitable if you extract them out. Reserve resources are the part of actual resources. In actual resources, there's a possibility that you have found the resource, but it's costly to take it out. It's costly to extract it out, and it will not be profitable. So you just leave that. You don't go to that those resources. On the other hand, reserve resources are those resources that have been surveyed, quantified, qualified, and you got the positive result. Like you have done analysis and you have come to conclusion that if we extract those resources, it will be profitable. And if we sell those resources in the market, you will get profit. So your investment would be less and your profit will be huge. Similarly, stock resources are those that have been surveyed, but right now you do not have the right technology to take it out. For example, hydrogen. So, so you call them stock. Okay, you are saying these resources stock, and in the future when you will have invented some technology to extract those resources, and at that time you can utilize those resources, and then the stock resources will become reserve resources. I hope you got the point. If you don't understand the stage of development, so you can comment, and I will be I will make entirely a full lecture on those resources. So again, you can see here that you have so much resources on Earth, but only a part which have been discovered and it's economical or profitable, you call that reserve. And other than that, which is either undiscovered or you don't have technology to extract it out, or you even if you have technology, but the material is not that sufficient and it will not be profitable to extract it out. So you just leave it there. So all comes under the resources. And the part, in another word, the short-term supply of geologic material, you can say that is reserve, which we are using right now. Whatever we are using on Earth right now, we are using it from the reserves. But we have more than that. We have to either discover it, or we have to either invent the technology to extract that out. So on the basis of recovery rate, we also categorize as natural resources, and these are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So at name says renewable means it can be replenished naturally, or it can be renewed naturally. It can be made again within the current time period. And in other words, we can also say that the rate of consumption of those resources is less than the rate of renewable. So the renewable rate is higher and the consumption rate is very less. So you just consume it, but on the other hand, it's getting refilling and refilling and refilling. So that's why we call it renewable. For example, sunlight, air, wind, and water. Non-renewable resources either form very slowly or do not naturally form in the environment. For example, coal, petroleum. Coal, petroleum are non-renewable because uh, you are using it and it's going to be exhausted. It's going to be finished, and it cannot be remade within the current period of time. Like it will take million of years to uh, remanufactured, reproduced. It will take a lot of time and a lot of generations to be available again in the earth, because the minerals, the crude oil or the petroleum you are using right now has been manufactured millions of years ago. So when plants and animals died in some era which was billions of years ago. So at that time, it started to make, and now you are using that. So we will call it non-renewable because it will form very slowly. It's very slow at very slower rate, and it cannot be available in your generation or coming generations. So it will be available again after many generations. Yeah, and some of the renewable resource be uh, will not be formed, not on slower rate, but they will not form entirely. For example, some radioactive material, because once it's going to finish, it's finished. So we also discuss the exhaustible and inexhaustible terms. So try to understand the link between these two, like renewable energies and non-renewable energies, and exhaustible resources and non-exhaustible resources. So let's see here and try to understand the terms. So, exhaustible resources are natural resources that are available in limited quantity. We have already, I think, discussed that. Coal, natural gas, and petroleum. These are inexhaustible resources. The thing is, we are going to discuss that the confusion is here is that exhaustible resources also lies in renewable resources. Like renewable resources, you know that renewable resources are replenished quickly, but we have a category. We have category of some renewable resources are exhaustible, and some renewable resources are also inexhaustible. If something is renewable, it's not necessary that it cannot be exhausted in the present time. Okay, you have to remember that we are talking about the short duration of time. We are not talking about the millennium. We are talking about the decade. We are talking about the current generation. So renewable resources can be replenished, but they are exhaustible. For example, okay, let's see here. For example, oil. You know that oil is non-renewable. So Of course, it is exhaustible. That's obvious. Similarly, coal. But what about trees? Yeah, you know that trees are renewable, but either tree is exhaustible or inexhaustible. Yes, they are exhaustible because if you just chop down the trees and you do deforestation at an alarming rate, you will have no trees to use right now in current time in this era for these 1, 2, 3 generations. So in this generation, this is exhausted. Although it was renewable, but it's finished now. You cannot use it all. It is not available for you. So you will categorize it as exhaustible resource. Natural gas, it's a non-renewable resource, so it's obvious that it's exhaustible. Similarly, wind. Wind is renewable, right? But what about wind? Is it exhaustible or inexhaustible? Yeah, wind is inexhaustible because it's not going to finish irrespective of how much of you use it. You use them recklessly, use it. Doesn't matter. Wind will blow and blow and blow, and you cannot stop that. So it's inexhaustible. Similarly, solar energy is renewable, and yes, it is inexhaustible. Again, you cannot finish out the sunlight. Definitely. So, geothermal energy. Geothermal energy is renewable and it is inexhaustible because the heat of the earth. If you run out one point, you will get it from another point. So it is inexhaustible. Biomass, it is renewable, you know that, but again, it is exhaustible because if you use it recklessly, it's overexploited, it will going to run out. Propane, nuclear energy, non-renewable. Water is renewable energy, but is it exhaustible or inexhaustible? Yeah, it is exhaustible. You have you have been heard that water is vanished in some areas. They don't have water, especially poor, least developed countries. They don't have water to have it. They have to walk miles and miles to just fetch a bucket of water. So what's happening to this? If it's not available to some of the people, that means it is exhausted. It is exhaustible. And with the current rate of industrialization and pollution, water bodies are getting polluted. And because of the pollution, the fresh water is becoming unavailable to utilize. When a resource is unavailable to utilize in a current time, in this era, in this decades, or in the current generations, so you will call those resources as exhaustible. Although it is renewable, but again, it will take time to renew because once you finish out the fresh water or you get polluted it, so it will take a lot of time to clean. So again, it is exhaustible because some people are not getting it, and in the future, it is going to worse. Uranium, it's a non-renewable resource and exhaustible, and similarly, forest like trees or like biomass. We were talking about the natural resources. So here we can say there are the resources and the products or services these natural resources provide you. Like air, it provides wind and you use in tires. Animals are also natural resource and you use it for food and clothing and coal for fuel and electricity. Minerals, different things are made up of minerals. Natural gas you use, oil you use, and plants, and for sunlight you use for solar power, and water you use for different purposes. So every natural resource is getting used, and you are using it in huge quantity, and you even don't realize that. So we will be discussing in the next lecture that what are the renewable resources, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of these resources. Thank you.